Hi there, this is Daniel from Mjölnir Camper and Camper Iceland. We have rented out truck campers for approximately 20 years, so quite some experience that has come together. Now some people ask me what are the best hacks and tricks for the truck camper that you can do to sort of improve your vacation. And so without further ado, here is my top list of things I would modify before going on the camper trip with your own 4x4 truck camper. So if your truck camper doesn't come with the solar panels, I would definitely recommend installing at least one, if not two. In this case, you can see two 80-watt solar panels. So together they provide 160 watt of 12-volt power. Now, why is this so important? Well, in the past years, electricity has been one of the biggest issues for people traveling in campers. The main reason is because I think that sometimes people underestimate how much electricity you actually use. You charge your phone, you charge your cameras, you are using the heating system, and the heating system is also using 12-volt power, even though it's a diesel heating system or a propane heating system. It needs electricity. Now, in case of this camper that I'm standing inside here, we also have a 12-volt fridge. Now, the 12-volt fridge, of course, uses electricity too. And if you have a standalone situation where the truck camper is not connected to a 110 or a 220 voltage connection at a campsite, you might run out of 12 volt. So the solar panel is, for me, is one of the most important thing to have. Another reason why I recommend solar panels is because in our experience we had vehicles without solar panels and we had vehicles with solar panels. The reason was just because some manufacturers put them on and others don't. And our experience was that even deep cycle batteries, they go bad much quicker if you don't have a solar panel. The solar panel keeps on putting a little bit of electricity into the battery all the time and sort of like keeps it alive. But if you totally drain a normal 12-volt battery, and it's not a new one, and a deep cycle, of course it's a deep cycle battery, but if you completely drain it, you risk of ruining the battery. With the solar panel, we've never seen that really happen. A battery goes bad because it's old. But without a solar panel, you can get batteries to go bad just because you totally drain them. Now, with every solar panel, of course, you need some sort of regulator. Now, here we have a basic, a good solar energy regulator that measures the temperature of the battery, and it measures how much voltage the battery has, and it tells you how much voltage the solar panel is giving you and how much ampere. You can see that at the moment it's not charging at all because I'm based inside the garage, but you need some sort of regulator. Now, these solar regulators, all they do is regulate the solar power and charge the battery. There are other systems. For example, the CTEK 250. The CTEK being one of the best battery charging equipment we have tested so far, has the 250 model, which is basically a system that combines solar charging and charging from the alternator of your vehicle, which means it draws solar power, it converts, puts it into the battery, and also if you start up the engine, it sort of charges the battery because your vehicle is running. Now, one of the benefits, because so far a normal regulator and a normal relay can do the job, but the CTEK 250 has one more advance that the other systems don't have. And that is, if your vehicle battery is going bad and you cannot start the vehicle, it can actually take energy of the second battery in your camper and give that energy back to the vehicle to make it able to start. Now, of course, the other way to work around this would be to just use jump cables from the battery in the back, giving electricity to the front. So, in my opinion, the prime of these charging systems is the CTEK 250. Now, for the CTEK, and of course also there are also other systems, there is something new. And I have to explain why you will need some kind of 12-volt booster system. Depending on what kind of vehicle you are using, you need this booster. For example, if you use an old truck, like a 1980 model Chevy Silverado, it probably produces 14.7 or 14.8 voltage, and it can fully charge your battery. It goes to 100%. But newer cars, especially in Europe, where they have these crazy Euro norms that you have to fulfill, the vehicle system is programmed not to charge the battery full. The reason is because it saves gasoline or diesel, and is more economical, of course, due to that fact. But now in the camper, you want the battery to be 100% full and not 80% or 85%. And that's why the CTEK for the 250 has a combination with a little booster. And here inside of this camper, I have a standalone 12-volt booster that I'm going to show you right now. So here, I'm going to zoom a bit out, because then you remember here was the solar charging, and on this side we have the charging converter, which means you can see it has an input where the 12 volt is coming from the vehicle itself, and then it boosts up the energy to go to 14.7, 14.8, so it can fully charge the battery. A little ventilator to prevent this to become too hot, and of course there's always a fuse with it. So this is basically what this unit does. Another super feature of this Voltronic system is that normally when you have a truck camper, people will put a relay into the hood somewhere, so that the battery in the back is only charged when you start up the vehicle. But in this case, we also have a trigger connector, which means this standalone system has one strong cable that comes from the front, and it has another trigger cable which gives it the positive 12 volt, how do you call it, the impulse that the vehicle is running. You can take that electricity, for example, from the daylight, or normally you can find it in the fuse box somewhere. So if you start up the vehicle, this system understands now, okay, the vehicle has started, so I can take electricity from the front. No more relay, nothing. This is all built into this unit. Now, in the CTEK 250, this is also built in, so you do not need a relay anymore. You just connect it directly to your battery. And the CTEK is so clever that it understands that if you start the vehicle and the voltage goes up, it understands that the engine is running and immediately starts to charge the battery, if dare to say the vehicle's battery is already fully charged. So as I previously mentioned, we have a 12-volt refrigerator in this camper. Why am I so fond of the 12-volt refrigerator, compressor refrigerator? Well, normally you will find some kind of propane fridge in your camper. And let me tell you that in Iceland, this can be a big problem, because in Iceland normally you have a lot of wind. So the little gas flame in the back of the fridge gets turned out, then it has to ignite again, and you can hear the piezo go on and off and on and off and on and off until the system is so cranked up that it doesn't work anymore. And because our customers normally are not the camper cracks, they more use the camper to go and travel and want to enjoy. They do not know that you can change it to 12 volt and just continue the trip. It becomes a problem that the gas system is not really working. Also, our experience has shown that 12 volt refrigerators, compressor refrigerators, are more specified for working with 12 volt. The systems that use propane have a 12 volt system sometimes, but it's more created that the fridge runs on 12 volt while you are driving. And then when you go to the campsite and plug in to the 110 or 220, depending on where you are in the world, the fridge should change over to that electricity input. So you have the three. You have the propane, you have the 12 volt, and you have the 220. But here in this camper, I only have the 12 volt compressor refrigerator from Dometic. And I love this product because basically it just runs and runs and runs, and it never turns off, and we never experience any problems with it. Of course, it uses electricity, but the thing is, especially when traveling in the Nordic countries, why on earth would you heat up your camper and cool down your fridge at the same time? If it's cold outside, let's say 2 degrees Celsius or 8 degrees Celsius, why don't you put your food into some kind of closed compartment? There are a lot of good things out there where you can put a lid on and close, especially if you're in the northern part of Europe where you can find bears. You probably don't want to put your food underneath your camper to attract the bear. But putting your food into some kind of closed compartment that is isolated, like the fridge is probably a good solution. And you just put your food outside underneath the vehicle or inside of the vehicle to cool your food, while you don't need to run your fridge when it's cold outside. When it's hot outside, you have the complete opposite thing. You don't need your heating system anymore. You just use your fridge. So you're good to go. And if you have the situation that it's really hot during the day and cold during the night, then of course you're going to use both systems. You're going to cool down your food with the fridge, and you're going to heat up the vehicle. And bear in mind here that many heating systems shut off if the voltage of the battery goes below 11 voltage. Now, why do they do that? Because they need a certain energy level to operate, and also it's protecting your battery. So the only advice I can give you here is put more batteries in your vehicle if you experience problems. Now in this camper, for example, we have a 100 ampere hour battery, and this means that normally when I use the camper after 2-3 days with the solar panel on the top, I still have 85-90% of the electricity, and it's more than enough for me. But if you go further up north during the winter time, for example, when the solar panel hardly charges because you don't get daylight really, then I would recommend that you put another 100 ampere battery into the vehicle. And another thing to consider is how much ampere is your vehicle actually charging the battery when it's running. Now in this camper here, we have a 20 ampere system, and that means that if the vehicle runs for 1 hour, you get 20 amps back into the battery. So if the battery is totally dry, you would actually have to let the vehicle run for 5 hours before the battery is fully charged. So this is just something that you can consider a bit of math. I know it's really complicated, but once you get into the camping and you start Googling, you know, how these things work, how much electricity they use, etc., etc., you will become sort of like a 12-volt professional, because the electricity is normally is the main issue during camping. Now, and because of that, I'm going to show you something else right now. So in this camper, I have installed this Vibin Energy Bluetooth system. Basically what it does is it gives you several different data on what to expect. For example, you can connect it to a cell phone with the app. So it connects via Bluetooth, and it gives you all the data that you can read here on the screen you get on your phone. And for example, here you can see a wonderful first benefit of this system. Now, as you can see here, it's telling me that minus 1.87 ampere is what's happening right now. The reason why it's withdrawing energy from the battery is because I have the LED lights running. I mean, 1.8 ampere is not that much. I have a 100 ampere battery, so you can have the lights running for 50 hours before the battery is drained. Now you can see the percentage of the battery, how much it's charged. Here it's telling me how many hours I can survive with regular use of the camper. After this time, you will need some kind of energy source. Now, of course, it's not really perfect because I'm standing inside of my garage and the solar panel is not running. But if I would be outside, the system would understand, oh, there's some electricity actually flowing into the battery as well, and it would lengthen the data here. So here is the voltage at the moment, 12.72, and the auxiliary voltage that is flowing in. So basically that's not doing anything. This is the solar panel that brings 9.8 voltage, so it's actually not charging at the moment. And instead of kneeling down to see the data on the screen, there is this wonderful app that you can download for free in the App Store that goes with this device. So why am I fond of this system? If you go wild camping somewhere totally remote, let's say northern Norway, then this system is pretty good, because you can sort of measure how many hours will I survive with my battery. Do I need to charge it, for example, before you go to sleep? It's minus 20 degrees probably outside, and you look at the system and you see that your energy level has dropped tremendously. It would be the time to turn on your generator or turn on your vehicle or plug your camper in and fully charge the battery before going for a sleep. Because like I said, if it drops below 11 voltage, the heating system will turn off. You will probably wake up and realize that it's minus 10 degrees inside the camper. And then you have to stand up and get the electricity going, etc., etc., and you will probably not get a good night's sleep. Another great advantage of this camper is that, I don't know if you can see it, but all these lights inside are brand new LED lights. LED uses really little of electricity. And that's a big advantage, because I can have these lights running basically forever without draining the vehicle. At the same time, we have installed a lot of these USB chargers that you can see, for example, over here. Yeah, these 12-volt USB chargers are just a thing right now. We have at least on 2 places we have installed these things in the cabin itself, and there's another one in the entrance which gives us 6 plugs of USB power. The big old 12 volts, the round one, at least in Europe, it's basically obsolete because most of the technology today uses an USB charger. And when it comes to 220, we in this new camper we only have one 220 outlet, because like I said, it's basically obsolete. Everybody is using USB right now. And some equipment though is powered with a 220, or you don't have a 12 volt charger for some things that you might be carrying along. That's why it's good to have this 220. So let's say you're in need of 220 voltage, you're not at a campground and you don't have a 220 in the vehicle. What can you do? And there is this equipment called inverter. What it basically does is it changes 12 volt to 220. Now the thing is that you need to know what you want to use this 220 plug for, because depending on what you want to power, you need a bigger or a smaller inverter. For example, in this vehicle we just recently installed a 300 watt inverter. That is enough to charge your computers, laptops and stuff like that. Normally on the charging cable or on whatever equipment you want to power, you can find how much watt it actually needs. For example, a vacuum cleaner can easily be 1000, 2000 watt, a drill the same, and also a hair dryer. Many people don't realize that a hair dryer uses a lot of electricity. So with this 300 watt inverter, it is impossible to power a hair dryer. Now, I have to be careful not to laugh because I have short hair and sometimes think, why on earth would you need a hair dryer when camping? I mean, camping is about being outside, growing a beard, getting long hair and not really caring about stuff like this. But if you're on a nice vacation and probably has a business meeting or something on the way, I can fully understand the need for your hair dryer problem. So just install a bigger inverter. Let me show you the 300 watt inverter. So we installed this little inverter underneath here. You can see you can turn it on here in the front and it generates 300 watt. It is connected to the camper battery, and let me tell you this, these guys use a lot of electricity, especially if you use the full 300 watt. It can easily drain your battery in a really short time. So I would only use this if you're really in some kind of trouble and need 300 watt electricity. You can of course have the engine running to generate power so that you don't lose all the power out of your battery, but just bear in mind these guys use a lot of electricity. I actually installed this inverter because for me, like I said, electricity is important, and if we have some kind of equipment that we need to charge, we can use the inverter if we are nowhere near a 220 system.